Do you hate the sound of your own singing voice? You're not alone. There are so many people who cringe whenever they hear their singing played back on a recording. And some people don't even like hearing their voice when they talk, let alone sing. If this is you and you'd like to become a little more comfortable with the sound of your own voice, then keep watching, because by the end of this video, you'll have experienced your voice in a whole new way.
Sound check.
G'day there, my name is Dr. Dan. Welcome back to Voice Essentials, the channel where everybody sings. But for some of you, the idea that everybody sings rings as a mistruth, because for some people, the very thought of hearing their own voice conjures up feelings of inadequacy, embarrassment, and downright fear. But it doesn't need to be this way. Trust me when I say you can learn to love. Yes, love the sound of your own voice. Now, that's a big claim. I mean, love sits at the opposite end of the spectrum to hate, right? So how do we swing your pendulum from one extreme to the other? Well, it all starts with a little bit of knowledge and some simple vocal activities, both of which I'm going to give you in this video. First comes the knowledge, and as tempting as it is to skip forward, or worse still, click away altogether, I ask you to take this moment to lay the all-important foundation of understanding and comprehension. You may not realize it, but you uniquely hear yourself. No one else hears you as you hear yourself. When you create sound for speech or singing, your larynx produces a sound that then travels along your vocal tract, out through the mouth or out through the nasal cavity. Typically, with any type of spoken or sung phrase, it'll be a combination of both. When your sound passes your lips and your nostrils, it enters the big bad world, bouncing off all the surfaces it encounters. When someone hears you, they hear a sound that is both direct from your lips to their ears, as well as sound that is reverberating off the surrounding surfaces. You hear that too, but your experience is made entirely different, because in addition to your ears hearing your sound externally, you also hear and perceive your voice internally. Your experience is the combination of your ears both externally and internally through the eustachian tube and the reverberance via bone conduction. But it doesn't end there, because not only do you hear your sound differently to everyone else, you also feel your sound. For some, speaking and singing have a beautiful sensation of ease and freedom, while for others, the voice feels tight, strained, and sometimes even painful. Unfortunately, if your voice feels undesirable, then you're less likely to be comfortable with the oral characteristics of your sound. In fact, one of the most effective ways that we can learn to manage and mold our sound into a more desirable acoustic is to hone in on the physical feedback. Richard Miller, one of the most influential singing teachers during the latter part of the 20th century, writes, "One of the ways the sounds of singing can be monitored by the performer is through experiencing sympathetic vibration. When the spectral balance is complete, a singer is aware of sensations in bony structures of the head that are quite different from those of imbalanced phonation. Once an association with ideal sounds has been established, these proprioceptive sensations become dependable indicators of tonal balance." So the key here, as described by Miller, is to develop a balanced phonation. And that's what we're going to do together with these practical exercises I've got for you to try. Each one is designed to help you explore your sound and the different acoustic values that your anatomy is capable of. To start with, let's first examine the three primary shapes, E, R, and U. Now, say each individual vowel followed by your own name, but be sure to place the production of your name into the position of the preceding vowel. Let me show you. E, Daniel. 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 You should be able to hear a difference between each of them. Do it again, and this time pay attention to how your voice feels on each one. E, Daniel. For me, the E is very focused, it's very clean, it's quite bright. Daniel. The R is a fuller sound for me. Daniel. The oo is a little bit, it feels a sort of a bit cavernous, if that is the right way to describe it. For me, the best sensation lies somewhere between the E and the R position. Play around with your voice and see which vowel position feels best. You might also like to record yourself using a smartphone or some other recording device. Remember, the sound of the recording will be different to what you hear inside your own head, so withhold your judgment and do your best to listen to the differences between each of the vowel shapes and positions. I've got one more activity that will help you to discover a newfound love of your voice, but before we look at it together, take a quick moment, hit the thumbs up button if you're already starting to love your voice that little bit more. I think one of the most significant concerns for people is thinking that their voice sounds thin, whiny, and nasally. I know that I struggled with an overly nasalized voice for many of my teenage years, and it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I discovered the secret to removing my nasality. Actually, it's simple enough. If you want less nasality in your sound, you need to make sure less of your sound travels through your nasal cavity. Truth be told, it's impossible to remove nasality from your sound completely because sounds like M, N, and NG are all 100% nasalized. But we can learn to position our voice differently, which in turn should give us a reduction of those overly bright colours in the tone for those sounds that don't need to be overly nasal. Before we do the activity, let's just clarify one thing. Sometimes what people think is nasality is actually a denasalized sound. In Odyssey of the Voice, Gene Abitbol writes, "If you have a cold, you sound nasal. In fact, you will be sounding denasal. The use of the word nasal should be kept for the existence of residence, not its absence." So with that clarification in place, say the word go, allowing your lips to move forward as the word runs into the vowel. Go. Go. Once more. Go. I want you to be aware of the rear of your tongue rising to the soft palate. This is the soft meaty part at the back of the roof of your mouth. It raises for the G and then drops away for the O. Go. Now that you're aware of the soft palate and the role that it plays in determining whether the voice is nasalized or not, let's do an activity from my exercise collection, Dr. Dan's Voice Essentials 1. Exercise 5 is usually used for the development of twang, but today I just want you to use it to become aware of the difference between the nasal resonance of the NG and the oral resonance of the vowels. Let me show you. Sing, ing, ing, ing. Sing, ing, ing, ing. Sing, ing, ing, Sing, I'd also encourage you to break the exercise down into individual segments of an NG followed by a single vowel. And when you do so, play around with your mouth shapes and experiment with the different sounds. So for example, if I was to play with an E shape, it would sound something like this. Sing, E, sing, E. The activities we've covered today are designed to help you explore your sound and the different ways your vocal tract can manipulate the sound. It's one thing to say you hate your voice, but there are things you can do to mold and move your sound more towards what you personally feel comfortable with, and hopefully I've been able to give you some tools to start that journey. If you're looking for more practical exercises that will help to improve your voice and develop your sound, then take a moment to watch a few of the videos in this playlist. I think you'll find they really help you to cement your newfound love for your unique and incredible sound. I hope to see you again in the next video. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.